who are you without it?
Well, body
It'll be
image,
interesting to see.
yeah, body images can be very defining. One thing to note is that the brain, the area of the brain, I need to have all my notes with me, but there's an area of the brain that literally memorizes all emotion,
The limbic
and it
system,
stores it. It stores it, and then it's basically, you then have the memory in what really makes something or an experience memorable are the emotions attached. Very specifically, is it a securing emotion or an insecure emotion? It's going to remember the both sides. Okay. So usually growing up, when we get into that adolescent stage, we experience rejection, abandonment, criticism, and we actually understand the intent of it. You know, as children, we get criticized as well, but we don't necessarily understand what the intention is. We don't understand there's a pecking order involved or a hierarchy of value compared to everybody else. Once pecking orders become something that's obvious, or we are aware of who's better than who, or that popularity contest, now criticisms really feel abandonment or rejection, or that we are less than everybody else. Does that make sense? Yep. Or it can go the other way. We're getting complimented, which means we feel better than someone else or more secure in a certain area. And the brain memorizes all of those things. So at different times in your life when you feel insecure, that part of the brain is going to go, hey, I remember when I was secure with this. And then you immediately go, well, why don't I try to go back and get that? Does that make sense?
Yep.
And your brain doesn't know the difference between a physical threat to your life and an emotional threat to insecurity with other people. It thinks it's all the same thing. So in essence, emotional insecurity is no different to the brain than physical insecurity. Like, oh, if I hunt in this area before I saw a bear, are you going to go back to that area? Probably not.
Right.
So, I got criticized for having this body frame. I'm going to try to change it, even though you can't. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So we respond the same way to, again, physical threat or security emotionally.
Because it's just a chemical response.
It's just the way the brain works. Yeah. Correct. So a lot of our emotional insecurity is driving behavior and also emotional security. The problem is when you attach to those securities your sense of worth or value. Then you get screwed up because, attaining a certain look or body image we think makes us better as people, when in reality it doesn't do anything. It's just your body. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right, I haven't even gone into this, but there's a couple things I wanted to know. You said you started gaining at 12. Did you start dieting at 12?
Dieting at 12, but then when I knew I was going to do this, I went back, looked at pictures of myself, and I was not overweight. I don't understand why I was dieting.
Well, that's because
really
you're using a social model, and when you're at 12 years old, adolescence, we micromanage because of the pecking order. We start to really look at things to micromanage because we're not aware of who we are. As you get older, you stop micromanaging your body as intensely.
Yeah.
Because, our brain develops and we realize that's part of aging. There's a lot more, you're more rational. Well, but that doesn't mean that you don't still think you should have a certain body image.
Here's a good memory, though, of back when it was my age, they had like nurses that would put you in weight loss programs if you were too fat. Mm-hmm. Well, because of what I weighed, because they would weigh you in front of the class, they weighed you in front of the class and said your weight in front of the class. These are memories I have that are awful.
You are kidding me.
I'm not kidding you. And one day I actually made myself physically sick, so I didn't have to do it. I still remember this. But anyway, so they sent me to the nurse because my weight was high. She looked at me and she goes, "You're not overweight. What are you doing here?" I get on the scale. I weigh a little more because I don't know if I have more bone or I don't know what it was.
Sure.
Oh, well, you are overweight, so here, now you're going to go on a diet.
Do you remember?
That is what
I want you to go back to that moment. Great.
Isn't that awful?
Isn't that a great way to start?
Anyway, gosh.
But I want you to go into that feeling. What did it feel like? What were you fearing when weighing in front of everybody else? What was the fear?
Oh my gosh, the classroom just laughing at you. And
what's the fear? That you're going to be looked down upon based on your body. So that's being rejected. Hierarchy. That's the hierarchy, the pecking order I talked about. You don't want to be you don't want to use that parameter because it's not fair or truthful, is it?
No.
But at the same time, was that defining? Was that you remember it?
Hugely.
So it's very defining in terms of in terms of your feelings that your body is a vulnerability and has to be fixed so that you don't have that vulnerability. Remember, I want you to pull up that feeling. Do you feel that quite often? So the same exact feeling.
I didn't know I did until I actually started, I haven't talked about it in a long time.
Yep.
So
keep that in mind, that there's a memory stored in your body, and you will feel exactly the same way at different times about your body.
Okay.
Because it's memorized. That was a very traumatizing potential risk of your security, and you're going to try to defend that or against it. So every time that feeling of anxiousness or anxiety about being criticized or judged, you probably get a very similar sensation, and you're going to be so defensive. Am I describing anything for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that truly your personality type?
No.
Have you even considered that one moment may be why you're so defensive in many different areas, not just your body? I don't even know you. Am I hitting this right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't go into defensive mode. I go into eating or drawing back.
Well, that's a way to defend. It may be because you're afraid of conflict.
Confrontation, yeah.
Correct. So you want to defend yourself, and that way for you is like, you know what? I'm going to eat anyways. Pretty much. And I'm going to eat despite that.
Yes,
which is
silly.
like, really?
Silly.
Well, it's like my son breaking his own toy because his sister was playing with it. It's like, you just broke your own toy. Oh, I did. It's like, we do it as adults all the time. Yeah.
That is
We're kind of stuck in that frame. But it's brain memory. Okay. It's like, we may look at breaking our own toy like, that is so ridiculous. But what's the difference by eating to spite someone else? What's the difference? You're hurting yourself to piss someone else off because you're vindicating. I mean, it's the same exact wiring of the brain. Same pathway, bigger issue. Okay. It's more of an adult issue. So another thing, we're both of these. That I don't want to talk about that on here. Okay, you please don't think I'm gross.
No, I know you're not.
Okay, good. Because I
judge myself enough to.
Well, I was going to say I don't even. Here's the question with.
Wish I could do a do-over on that.
Well, you know what? This brings me to what. After looking at all this, I'm like, oh man, I have to talk about this.
Yeah, please.
How much of your stress? And yes, I need to numb myself has to do with the fact that you thought life was going to be a certain way, and it's not.
Well, I made decisions because I was trying to make my life this certain way to make other people happy, and I thought myself, and then I get here and I'm like,
well, if I could go back, I would have let it just evolve.
Absolutely.
Let it just go and be, and there's no criticism, judgment.
Absolutely.
Here's the cool news. You have all that wisdom. There's a lot of wisdom you gained in that.
Yes, I did.
So one of the things that I see a lot is people know it, but they don't use that wisdom because they're still living as if they are insecure and vulnerable and crazy. So you continue to live in a way, so it's all that memory in the brain, as if you didn't learn from it. So you actually, for example, I have a friend whose husband was cheating on her, and she, through the process, learned what to look for, why she should have known in advance, why she shouldn't have started a relationship with this person, because there's so many signs that she learned from the process. But guess what? Every single man she meets, she's assuming is going to cheat on her, even though some of these men don't have any signs. So she's living as if every person is that person, or as if she has no clue. Does that make sense?
Wow, and then she pushes them away from
everybody. And it's like, well, we're drinking one night at a bar, and I'm like, honey, you know all the signs. Does this person that you're pushing away have any of those signs? No. Well, then why are you treating them that way? Don't you think that you could pick out a cheater from 10 miles away at this point? Yeah, all of a sudden she's like, oh, my Lord. I am a cheating expert. Why would I treat people who are obviously not cheaters as if they're going to cheat on me? It's that brain wiring, that insecurity with men, and she just didn't realize that it's inappropriately being applied. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Because we attach a lot of these emotions to weird things, like I was secure when my waist was 20 inches.
No.
Does that make sense? Well, that's something we memorize. Like for me, when I was going through my, my psychological illness, I literally thought that my waist had to be 28 inches. Because that to me was where my waist was when I was happiest.
Oh, okay.
Because the brain memorizes, think of it this way. I find a secure spot that keeps me away from getting killed by bears and animals, right? What do I look at to remember that space? I'm going to look at terrain. I'm going to look at the visual. Where is this at relative to the lake? Where is this at relative to that hill? I'm looking at a visual memory of that secure point. Does my brain know the difference between threat to death or threat to emotional insecurity? Because what happened for me is I memorized the visible visions of what I thought were secure, but little did I know at that point I was actually secure because I was more authentic. And I just believed someone's opinion, and that eventually brought me into some form of suicide. Anyways, back to you. So you've got a lot of really fun things in your life. I mean, I look at this and I'm like, this is awesome. Seriously.
Yes, I could write a book. I believe it'd be very good.
Yeah, I mean, what a vibrant life you have here. But I have a feeling that you criticize it. So that's what you're numbing. Your criticism of your own life. And this is freaking amazing. Can I just tell you it's amazing? Do you mind if I speak a little bit about your history?
No, you may.
Do you mind if I mention this?
You can mention anything you want.
You've had 2 pregnancies, both aborted.
Yes.
You got married.
No, I never got married.
But, okay, so you had a very important relationship with a man who ended up being transgendered.
Yes. Which is why I sold my business and I'm not being a chiropractor right now.
Okay. Were you business partners?
Yes, he put a lot of money into it, and so there was a huge, meshing of it. It's not like I could just say, okay, well, this isn't going to work for me.
Well, was he transgendered to start, or is this something that he was hiding and then it came out?
He was hiding it.
Yeah, because of fear of rejection and abandonment. Yeah. And do you think he honestly loves you?
Oh, yes.
And you love him?
Oh, yes.
I know it. I love that. Okay,
yes.
Good. So, but do you judge this whole process? Are you judging the concept, or because there were lies and there wasn't an open? If he had openly,
I should have seen it. I shouldn't have done the business with him. I shouldn't.
Well, is it because of the transgendered thing, or that's why you shouldn't have gone into business with him? I mean, be honest with yourself. What parameters are you creating that are so false, so fake, based on some idea of what is right and what's wrong?
Probably. I know I've looked back at myself and seen a lot of judgment of myself and of the situation and of that person.
Yeah, well, that has to happen. If you're criticizing yourself, you're looking at everybody else with the same criticism. So if you're an idealist, honey, you're screwed with everybody else because they have to match the ideal as well. My accountant is transgendered.
No, there's nothing wrong with it.
I know it, but she
it really
is amazing at
your
as an
holier
accountant.
than thou crap that you have. It mirrors that
yes,
big time.
Exactly.
And I saw some things I didn't like about myself.
Can I just tell you, my accountant is amazing. Amazing. What does her wanting to be a female have to do with her ability to know taxes and figure out my accounting?
About the courage
Absolutely
it takes
nothing.
To do that.
Yes, it does.
I've never seen that kind of courage in my life.
Well, it takes a complete renewal of who you are and the willingness to be rejected and abandoned. I mean, I've done it myself, so I have so much respect for people who are willing to tell the truth and a hard truth, knowing full well that their truth conflicts with society's messed up, idealistic, conformist parameters.
But I saw it as it being done to me.
No, and
taking away my man and my life and my future and my husband and my business partner as my husband.
But did it really?
Because I had it in my head, he was my husband, my business partner, not my friend business partner. And so it just blew up.
So the issue was the idea of what your parameters were, although he enabled it.
Say that again?
The problem were the parameters. The problem was this idea of perfection and what was supposed to happen. Yes. Everything you just said, that was the problem. It's not that it's everything
to prove
else.
I was okay.
Totally. If you
If I could do that, then the
Where's
abortions
your
were
wisdom?
okay.
Take your wisdom right now. I want you to take everything you learned about yourself. Who cares about anybody else? About yourself. If you could do this over, okay? And you are going to do it over, meaning you can't change your decisions as far as this is going to happen. How would you have responded differently? You would have been like, oh my God, I love you anyways. Let's just keep on, let's go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because what's the problem, really? And not only that, but you would see the fact that this person is coming out to you takes so much humility and fear, especially if you are one of the most important people in this person's life, that by them opening themselves up, that is such an amazing act of love and courage that most people don't have. What a profound individual that you have a karmic connection to.
Yeah, obviously. Because we're still connected. We still,
oh my God,
in many, many ways. So, yeah, because I haven't finished. Because I screwed up.
Well, and you also have to know, and it's not permanent, you also have to know, too, that when he opened up to you, she opened up to you, she knew that that was the risk. And that is because ultimately, in order for someone to let go of the lie, they have to accept the risk, even though it hurts so bad. It hurts bad.
Yeah. Probably worse than anything we've ever felt.
Oh my. Well, it feels like death.
It is a death.
Mm-hmm, it is.
I had to, you have to, and I had to, a lot of times I just put a lot of my, okay, how is this person feeling, and put my feelings aside. And I had to eventually realize it is a death. Mm-hmm. It is a death of that person. And
a death of your old identity and your old parameters, of which now you realize are messed up.
They are messed
up. So
up.
many people don't go through that. They are not willing to change the parameter, partly because they're moralized, they're religious, they're this weird
I didn't think
culture.
I was that. I thought I was spiritual and evolved and all that.
Well, that could be the truth.
It is slightly the truth, but this has been a mirror to show me.
Well, there are some parameters, and the work is just letting go of those parameters so that you can experience life without having being conformed to some idea.
Okay.
Learn from this. This is such an amazing experience that you've been given. I mean, really, think about the wisdom you've gained from this about yourself, about society, about what unconditional love is really about. Now, with that said, let's get back to you.
Okay.
Let's talk about your body image and why you feel that your body has to match a certain look, a certain weight, a certain ideal. Take out the health component, because if it was about health, you wouldn't be sitting here right now. And every time you overconsume, you wouldn't be doing it.
True.
So we can't even talk about health, because it really is something that is not important. Why? Because it isn't the weakest link.
Gotcha.
The weakest link is what determines what's wrong here. So what is the weakest link? Would it be your self-hatred?
Probably.
Why are you hating yourself? What parameter do you think you're supposed to fit? So all this parameter stuff that you're using for everybody else in the world, let's get into your parameters for you. Are they even realistic? Are you conforming to something that you were taught but isn't even the truth? I mean, think about your parameters and why there's so much self-hatred and loathing and pity and martyring and whatever it is. Why? What is it? Because ultimately those feelings are a consequence of some parameter you're not matching.
Okay. I don't know why.
Well,
I honestly don't.
You need to go into the process of thinking with this on your own time, in a quiet moment. The question being, what standard have you set that you're using yourself against? And that standard is probably abusive, meaning it's unattainable, based on the reality of your life at this moment. Does that make sense? You're not in the now, if that makes better sense. It's not attainable at this second, but yet you're still killing yourself over it.
Okay. So you have to accept it's not attainable.
Totally.
Also.
Yeah, well, it's not that you can't have goals, but what's the context of that goal? Are you compensating for something?
Oh, okay.
If you are, it's not going to work out.
Really,
and if you do get it, you're in trouble. Correct.
That's the ticket.
Totally.
To being non-abusive, but still being able to attain the goal.
Yeah, because if the goal is something that's like just a reflection of your self-love, then there is no parameter on the timing of when it needs to be accomplished. There's no force or control to get it, because you really don't need whatever the outcome is. You're not doing it because you need it.
I see.
Does that make sense? So,
get that.
Okay. I'm so glad. You are really making this easy for me.
No, that's because anyway.
You really have to look at your personal parameters. Don't worry about society. Don't worry about anybody else's opinion. Start with your opinion of yourself. And if you're stuck with all these other parameters, the problem most likely is that you don't know who you are. So you're using parameters to feel validated.
That makes sense.
So
that's
the next
what I want
lower level, which is the base, is who are you?
I think that's what I'm really wanting right now.
That's what you need.
That's
and
what I want.
Do we have to go find it and create it, or does it exist?
It's here.
It totally exists. And it hasn't changed since birth. It's been the same your entire life. Because you realize that nothing you do out here changes it. Outside of any wisdom you gained, your state of consciousness change, you open up your mind. It's like going back to what you were when you were born, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, I want you to think about that. Ultimately, has your value as a person changed because of your hardship or your attainments?
No.
I know. So does the car I drive really make me a better person? Does what I do with my hair and makeup really change who I am? Does anything I do really matter? Does it?
No.
You got it. So start there. Once you really get a grasp of the sense of yourself and who you are, it's the sense of your soul that doesn't have visible, earthly definitions. Right?
Yeah.
Once you have a grasp of that, can you use that to go forward with your life as the reason why you do what you do?
Yes, that would be so much better.
Well,
because I know it would be a better direction.
Well, don't you agree? Well, if you're doing that, do you need to control any outcome of anything?
No.
Because you're just illuminating something that is truthful. It's the truth. So where's the force and control here? If this is the truth of who you are and you're creating something because it's so innately just a manifestation of what's real about your soul. You know, what I'm saying right now is coming from that source in me. Yes. I am not trying to win you over. I could give a shit what you think about me.
Right.
Positive or negative. I'm not doing it for anything about you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So can you do what you do through a vibration that is true?
I have to say I don't know because I've never done that, I don't think. Or maybe I have about this much in my life.
Well, it's
maybe.
There.
But I believe I can.
But you might have, you let it go as a child. Yes. Don't you remember as a child you paint and you create and you're not concerned about, you just do it.
I do remember that.
You're not concerned about if someone hates or loves it. It's you.
Yeah, I do remember
so there's no parameter you're judging yourself by, right? So you've been conformed to think that what you do and how you look and what you accomplish and what you don't accomplish and how you don't look, all of those things are defining and none of it is true. So what I'm asking you to do is start over. That do-over you said when you said, I wanted my do-over. Well, we'd have to start from the soul. We don't start from, I got to look better. I need to get a new job. All of that is not where you start.
Okay. You
start with, what is the essence of my soul and what does my soul really want? Evaluate what you have, what you want to keep. What is truly something that you love and you like it and you don't need anything other than anything. Does that make sense? And then there's stuff that you've got in your life that does not vibrate well. It's actually you accumulated it out of fear. You brought it in because it was a compensation. And ultimately it's a lie anyway. So can you let those go? So you really need to sift through what you have existing and then differentiate what is authentic and what is not. And then from there, continue to navigate your life moving forward from the soul.
And food keeps you from doing that. I mean,
totally.
Overeating keeps you from doing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But a lot of your overeating is directly tied to the concept of body image.
Yeah.
You know, you don't like, so you had this image in your mind of what your body should look like, right? Based on the fact that you don't want to feel that rejection, abandonment, or criticism. Okay. So then you feel bad about what you have because you're prone to, based on these parameters that are set by the media, that are set by peers and family, whatever their needs are physically. You criticize your body because it doesn't match any of those. And you're criticizing the body because it makes you feel vulnerable. So then you manipulate your food, right? Then you're going to go to a diet because you got to fix the body, right? So diets tend to be bland, first of all. Not only do they not taste good, but they're so controlling that you end up feeling isolated and deprived, emotionally deprived from what our culture is doing, okay, which is massive gluttony. So your sense of deprivation is usually tied into what you feel is entitled, which is the massive gluttony. So then if you feel that deprived from what we live in, what are you going to do the moment you break that control?
Oh, go crazy.
Well, yeah, you're going to say, you know what, I screwed it anyway, so let's go ahead and indulge, but I'm going to do another diet later. So I've got to indulge everything I can right now and eat everything I know is bad because I'm not going to get that experience again. Does this sound familiar?
Yeah.
So your eating behavior actually is more about your diet issue and your body image issue. This is the easiest thing to fix unless you're using food as a protection from vulnerability. Meaning I have to eat to feel secure from other people's judgment. You know,
think about that
there's two sides of this. There's the body image, then there's the food image that also has a body image, and there's all sorts of things going in on this relationship you have with your body. But here's the simple way to do it. It doesn't feel simple. It feels actually really complex and scary because you have to be willing to be rejected. It'd be like you going back in your mind and saying, you know what, I'm going to go in front of that class. I'm going to weigh myself.
I would love to be able to do that.
Oh, I know. And do you need to prove anything?
No.
Do you need to go and tell that nurse?
No.
You know what? No. You just go weigh and you just don't care. What would that have done for you?
Change.
To have said, you know what,
Probably
I'm going to go to
my
school.
Life.
It probably would have. But doesn't that sound like that is being true to who you are and not worrying about whether you get a compliment or... I mean, it goes both ways. You have to let go of compliments and criticism. Because if you get off on compliments, then you need more compliments to stay secure. And if you don't get compliments, you feel insecure. So then you got to manipulate your behavior so you get more compliments. So you got to find out what someone else likes, and then you got to do it so that they like you more. I mean, it's so junior high.
Ew.
I know, doesn't it make you go, ew?
So gross.
But it's like the reality we live in.
It
I mean,
is.
So you've read Weight Loss Apocalypse 2 times. You get the science. You have a science background. What's your
chiropractor?
So you have a biology degree. You've got all sorts of
nutrition and everything. Yeah.
fabulous. So the science for you was probably the best kick-ass part of the book.
It was the draw.
I love it because that part of the book I actually wrote, and I wasn't sure I was going to even include it in this, but to me it was such a huge part of validating the protocol as a platform for rehab.
Yes.
Physical, but emotional to me is the key, because even if we rehabilitate your body and your brain and your mechanisms that are going on here that have been off kilter because of your large fat organ cells, none of it matters, because if you don't change your body image, if you don't let that go and start over with your body you have right now, if you can't accept your body right now with unconditional love, you will recreate the physical problem.
Because?
You're going to try to control your food.
Oh, okay.
So you're countering your own biology because of an insecurity with the way you look. Hello, Miss Chiropractor Doctor. How often do you see this shit?
All the time.
Someone comes in with a hip that's rotated, and what are they doing? They're walking upstairs with one leg, right? I mean, does that make sense? So it's like you can continue to fix someone, but they have to look at what are they doing that continues to create the problem.
Yes.
It's
cause.
Yes, it's not medicating the symptom.
The iceberg underneath the iceberg.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, this has been a half an hour. I've got to stop.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And thanks for listening.